Hey everybody, Casmo here in the cockpit of a Huey. Today we're going to talk about hovering and just a few mistakes that people make when they're learning to hover. And I'm just kind of talking in general, not just in DCS. I think most people kind of, muddle their way through it and eventually find the hover button, as we called it in flight school. But for people kind of getting into helicopters and DCS, I think it can be pretty intimidating. Um, and I've long maintained that it's actually harder in DCS than it is in real life to hover, and it's hard to hover in real life when you're learning. That's probably one of the hardest things about learning to fly a helicopter, in my opinion, and I think most guys would agree. There's just a certain skill set that comes with that. It's kind of like riding a bike. The first time that you do it, you probably fall on your ass. So same with hovering, except generally you've got a guy like this dapper fellow here next to you that prevents you from doing that. So um, one of the main things about hovering that people screw up, and myself included, is overcorrecting. So you have to remember that in a helicopter, things aren't instantaneous. So and again, this is towards the newer guys who are just kind of figuring things out, but things aren't instantaneous. So typically what happens is, you want to put in a correction for something or cause a movement. Well, if you move the cyclic, the aircraft, there's going to be a pause, and then eventually it's going to start moving. Well, if you don't understand that relationship of time, you're going to put in the movement, nothing's going to happen, and you're going to say, well, I need to put in more. You're going to put in more. About the same time that you do that, the aircraft's going to start moving again, and then it's going to keep going further. Well, then now you're going to try to overcorrect back the other way. Well, then there's going to be a delay. So you end up kind of getting into this, left and right, forward and back, trying to correct your mistakes and your motions. The other thing is just understanding the pedals and the relationship with your torque settings. So, as you increase your collective, you're going to have to increase a little bit of your pedal to kind of offset that torque. So anyway, let's see if we can't pick this up. And one of the things that definitely I recommend is turn off that force trim right there. Flies a little bit better. So let's see if I can't pick it up without making a complete fool of myself. And you can watch up there at the top left, we've got the little control indicator panel thingamaboob. And I typically pull back a little bit of cyclic just because I like to have some pressure. And I'm just bringing in a little bit of collective to kind of see what the aircraft's going to do. So I'm not putting in a left pedal, so I'm bringing a little bit more pedal as I raise the collective. And just making very small corrections with the cyclic. And of course with the Huey, there's really no augmentation with the system, so it's going to wobble around, and that's okay. I mean, this is a natural sort of state. But look at the cyclic motions that I'm making, very very minor, and when I'm letting it go forward, I promise you. I'm not trying to overcorrect. I'm anticipating some of the motions, and really that's all it is. It's just a game of anticipating what the aircraft's going to do, and in some cases being patient with the aircraft. Okay, letting that control input take before you think that it's too much or that it's not enough, and try to add more. Because what you'll do again is you're going to put some in, and I'm going to take some out. Look at the cyclic motion to the right, to the right, to the left, to the left. See how there's a delay there. So just be mindful of that as you're learning how to do this stuff. And again, just remind yourself that in this it is harder. It is much harder, in my opinion, to hover. Hovering is a very visceral, seat of the pants type feeling. You'll feel the aircraft start to sink before any of these gauges or before your eyes tell you that it's happening. You're just going to know that the aircraft's coming down, and you'll correct with some collective, or you'll feel it start to slide to the right, or you'll kind of visually see it and make those corrections. But it's a lot harder to kind of replicate in the video game. All right, so one of the things you can do to kind of up your hovering game, if you will, these are some drills that we actually did in flight school, and instructor pilots like to play these games with you, is You know, try to line the aircraft up on the center line. And of course, with an aircraft like this where you're sitting to the right or left, you know, it gets a little funky. So you got to kind of figure out that good sight picture of your canopy, figure out where the center line of the aircraft is. I think I'm a little bit to the right there, but just kind of work on hovering just slowly in a straight line. And this gets boring, but this is how you develop your control touch. And I'm one of those people that can't fly and talk, so I'm kind of wiggling around here, but this is a thing that you really got to do. And I mean, you know, going through flight school, there were times where this is all we did. You know, for your hour or hour and a half that you had in the aircraft that day, is you went to a stage field and you spent a good 45 minutes hovering back and forth down the runway or something like that. So, yeah, you're working on your pedal inputs, your collective inputs, all that stuff. Alright, so another little trick you can play, and this one's going to get a little funky just because DCS is going to kick up a lot of dust. Let's try to get your nose on something. You know, not like directly on it, but I'm pointing at the sign, and I'm just trying to hover in a circle around the sign. And again, a little bit harder. Maybe if you have VR, it's probably a little bit easier, but now you're kind of working that collective cyclic pedal relationship. And just kind of work that circle around there and try to keep it, you know, the same radius as you started. I've kind of screwed this one up, but I think you get the point. And again, we're just working on control touch, and that's really all flying is understanding your control touch and how do you need to manipulate the controls. You know, as you've watched, if you've been paying attention to the cyclic position, you know, it's barely moving. You know, I'm not doing too much to it. Okay. Point is with hovering is it is hard. Okay, guys are learning how to do auto rotations to the ground before they figure out how to hover. That's just the reality. It is challenging. You got a lot going on, particularly in an aircraft like the Huey, where you don't really have anything working for you. You are working your feet, you're working both your hands. Both your hands are doing something different, so there's a lot going on. So if it's kicking your butt, don't be disheartened by it. Practice. Go ahead and devote some time, and just come out to the airfield and just practice doing some things. Okay. Anyway, hope this was helpful. Gives you a little bit of encouragement for guys that are struggling. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. As always, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, all that good YouTube stuff. Share with your friends. Discord is popping. Low level hell. Link will be in the description below. Anyway, I'll shut up. I appreciate you watching, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.